with another country, and today we are on Austria. So yeah, let's just get going with Austria and see what adventures we get on today, kind of thing. It's like Austria's kind of old, but from the 4th century BC, the Celtic people lived in what is now Austria, and from the end of the 1st century BC, the Romans had conquered the region as far north as the Danube River, and in 48 AD they created the province of Noricum, and the Romans built towns like Vindobona, later would become Vienna, the capital of Austria, and they also built roads and the Roman way of life. But from the 4th century AD, just before the decline of the Roman Empire, the Germanic tribesmen and Avars overran what was now Austria. And then Charlemagne, king of France, from 768 to 814, conquered the area and made it part of his empire. But after Charlemagne's death, his empire was divided into 3 parts. Louis the German took the eastern section which included Austria, and some could say that under the Frankish rule Austria kind of prospered. But in the 10th century, the people called the Magyars began raiding Austria, but the Magyars were defeated by the German king Otto I in 955, in which Germans regained control of the region, and the Magyars became the modern day ancestors to modern Hungarians. And in 1156, the Holy Roman Emperor made Austria a duchy, and its ruler became a duke. And once again, Austria kind of prospered, but when the Duke of Austria died in 1246, King Ottokar of Bohemia, now the Czech Republic, was elected Duke and married the last Duke's widow, which was kind of seen as the norm back then. And in 1273, Rudolf von Habsburg became Holy Roman Emperor, and he defeated the Bohemian or Czech king. And in 1282, he made his son Albert Duke of Austria, and Habsburgs ruled Austria for centuries to come, gradually acquired more territory and built up an empire in Central Europe, which became very renowned. And in 1358, King Rudolf IV, known as the founder, became Duke of Austria, and he founded Vienna University. And in 1437, Albert II, or Duke of Austria, also became King of Hungary and Bohemia, Czech Republic. A year later, in 1438, he became Holy Roman Emperor, and Austria was now a dominant power in Central Europe. But in the early 16th century, Austria faced powerful threat from the Turks, and in 1529 the Turks besieged Vienna, but failed to capture the city. Despite the Turks being around and invading all that, the Austrian Empire kind of flourished a little bit, and during the 16th century trade and commerce grew, although the majority of the population remained peasants, the poor people that worked the land. And meanwhile, all of Europe was rocked by the Reformation, and a great many people in the Austrian Empire converted to Protestantism. However, the Catholic Counter-Reformation won some back, and Rudolf II, from 1576 to 1612, persecuted the Protestants, and the later Austrian... I think I've just got someone from the UAE for following on Instagram, but getting back to the video. No. But later Austria was involved in the 30 Years' War from 1618 to 1648, which caused devastation in much of Habsburg's land. Furthermore, in 1683 the Turks laid siege to Vienna again. However, the armies of the Germans and Poles relieved Vienna, and after that the Turks were slowly driven back to their own territories, what was theirs to begin with. And during the 18th century, Austria prospered despite taking part in many long wars. And the first of these was the War of the Spanish Succession of 1708. No, it wasn't. 1701 to 1714, which ended with Sardinia and part of Italy being added to the Austrian Empire. And more trouble brewed because Emperor Charles VI, from 1711 to 1740, did not have a male heir, and he persuaded foreign powers and national assemblies within his empire to accept his daughter as the next ruler, as Maria Theresa succeeded him in 1740. But Frederick the Great of Prussia probably took Silesia and started the War of the Austrian Succession from 1840 to 1740 to 1748. And during the war, Maria Theresa had to fight the Prussians, French, and the Spanish. And in 1748, Maria Theresa's husband, Francis of Lorraine, was made Emperor Francis I. And when he died in 1765, she ruled with her son Joseph II from 1765 to 1790. And at the end of the 18th century, the French Revolution threw Europe into turmoil. And from 1792 to 1815, Austria and France fought a series of wars. And in that time, and in 1806, Napoleon dissolved the Holy Roman Empire, and the ruler of Austria gave up the title of Holy Roman Emperor and became, and at the time, Holy Roman Emperor Franz came Emperor Franz I of Austria. And after Napoleon's defeat in 1815, Clemens Metternich, the foreign minister, became a leading figure in Austrian politics, and he introduced a repressive regime that imposed liberal ideas. But despite the repression, the Austrians kind of prospered, and by the mid-19th century, industrialization was taking part in some areas. And during the 19th century, nationalism was gaining force in the Austrian Empire, and various people such as the Hungarians and the Czechs became increasingly dissatisfied with Austrian rule. And then in 1848, a wave of revolutions washed across Europe, including the Austrian Empire, as Metternich resigned and the emperor made concessions. However, the army remained loyal, and the Emperor Ferdinand I abdicated in favour of his nephew Franz Joseph. The new emperor restored an absolute monarchy in Austria, and the old order returned. But Austria was defeated by a war in France, by France in a war in 1859, and was defeated by Prussia in 1866. And after that, Austria ceased to be a dominant power in Central Europe, as the rule passed on to Prussia. And after the war in 1867, the Austrian Empire was split into two parts in what would become the Austro-Hungarian Empire, consisting of Austria on one side and Hungary on the other, and both were ruled by the same emperor. But by the late 19th century, industry in Vienna grew rapidly. Furthermore, railways were built across the empire, but various ethnic groups in the Austro-Hungarian Empire still kind of yearned for independence, and they kind of got it with the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand in 1913, which led to the First World War. And in October 1918, even before the war officially ended, the Austro-Hungarian Empire began to break up, as the various races declared like ethnic groups declared independence on each other. And on the 11th of November 1918, the Emperor abdicated, and on the 12th of November, the Republic of Austria was declared. And it's like in the 1920s, Austria recovered from the war, but like the rest of the world, in the early 30s, like the rest of the world, Austria still suffered in the Depression. And in July 1934, Nazis attempted a coup, and they shot the Chancellor Engelbert Dollfuss. However, the troops defeated the coup, and there's a lovely guy named Hitler, so he was totally not nice, was determined to absorb Austria. And in early 1939, Hitler forced the Austrian government to appoint Nazis in important posts. And Chancellor Schnick proposed a referendum on the issue on whether Austria should join Germany. But Hitler was increasingly dissatisfied with it, and German troops massed along the border, and Schnick resigned on the 12th of March 1938. German troops occupied Austria. As Austria suffered greatly during the Second World War, and many Austrian soldiers were killed. And like many other countries, they suffered from Allied bombings and a Russian invasion in 1945. But in 1943, the Allies decided to restore an independent Austria after the war, and the first provisional government in Austria was formed in April 45, and in July 45, Austria was divided into 4 zones by allies who were USA, France, Britain, and Russia. And the first parliamentary elections were held in November 45. But it took them like another decade till 55 for Austria to become an independent nation again. Parliament declared permanent neutrality, and Austria also joined the UN in December of 1955 as that year. And it's like, towards the end of the century, Austria was going through like prosperity and economic growth. And yeah, so like in 1995, Austria joined the EU, and joined the Euro in 1999. And like the rest of the world, it also suffered from the recession of 2009, but was able to recover. And Austria is once again a prosperous country with a population of about 8.7 million. So yeah, it's like that's a bit of the history. It's a bit like, it's only like scratching the surface. As the Habsburgs are kind of interesting kind of thing, like the whole Roman Empire, and their like roles in like Central like Europe at the time. So yeah, I'll quickly go over like the language. It's like I have spoken a bit about German now, and a few of the others that I'm going to mention. So I'm just going to go over it quickly. So yeah, although Croatian, Hungarian, Slovenian, Turkish, and other languages are spoken by like minority groups, nearly all people in Austria do speak German, and the dialect of German is spoken in Austria, except in the west. It is kind of known as Bavarian or Austro-Bavarian. And about 7 million people speak Bavarian in Austria. And male Bavarian subdialect is chiefly in Ober and Niederösterreich, as well as in Vienna. And Southern Bavarian is a subdialect spoken in Tyrol, including Southern Tyrol. And Kärnten and parts of Steiermark. And the speech mostly is a reminder of the country's inhabitants tend to shade into one of those sub dialects, and in the West, however, an Alemannic or Swiss dialects prevails, and the inhabitants of Vorarlberg and parts of Western Tyrol Alemannic in origin, have cultural and dialectal affinities with German Swiss to the west and Swabians in Germany to the north. So yeah, just a little bit on, did say it was going to be a little bit on languages and all that. So yeah, moving on to like the last little bit of legends. There's essentially like every culture has its myths and legends that's spread around by like locals, like rumours of murder to true like Vienna's original coffee houses. So yeah, starting in with the first coffee house in Vienna and all that kind of thing. As Vienna's love affair kind of has like coffee kind of thing, and with its coveted coffee houses being at the forefront of a city's culture. Drinking extends into like Austrian folklore, as its story kind of begins with the Turkish siege of Vienna in the 1600s. As a Polish man called, sorry if I mispronounce it, as a Polish man called Korzybski, who spoke excellent Turkish, strategically mingled in with the Ottomans, taking them up on their numerous invitations of coffee, and as this time Vienna remained largely unacquainted with the caffeinated drink, and it's become so synonymous with it, as Korzybski developed a taste for coffee after these meetings, passed on his notes about the Ottomans to the Polish kings, who organised a lightning cavalry strike on them, and during this time the Turkish food stores were raided, and Korzybski searched for the sacks of the brown beans that makes coffee. I knew he contained the key ingredients of a new drink, and he kept the secret brewing to himself, and was later rewarded with a license to open his own coffee cupboard, which was the first coffee shop. Moving on, there's also the Krampus, which is also kind of German as well. And it's because originally was Christmas war festivities inspired like the image of a rosy-cheeked Santa and like angelic creatures. However, a Krampus was a short fanged half-goat, half-demon and takes a key role during Christmas celebrations in Austria and around Europe. And it's primarily used as a deterrent for naughty children. It was the exact opposite of Saint Nick, who I have done a video on, check it out by the way. As Saint Nick gives out gifts and food, whereas Krampus gives out coal. And on the 6th of December, the day of the feast of Saint Nick in Austria, and sees people dressed up as devilish creatures and start parading through the streets. And so I could just do this quickly, as I'll need to save the scripts from today and yesterday. So yeah. Moving on to another one, there's Saint Stephan's Cockerel, as Vienna's most recognisable landmark. It also has myths attached to it. There's a particular tale like a young cock that sits at the top of a cathedral's roof. I'm really struggling today. According to some, during the 15th century, a close acquaintance of a knight to the emperor, Caspar von Schroeder, was sent to the emperor to deliver a message, leaving his beloved wife behind, who gave him a silver crucifix to protect him. Now, as he was sent to the emperor to deliver a message to protect him from danger, and during his time away, the knight was captured by bandits forcing his lover to give up hope and arrange to marry someone else, and the knight had a vision in which he saw his wife about to marry St. Stephen at St. Stephen's Cathedral, Stephan's Cathedral, and the devil standing before him with a cockerel. He told the man the cock would take him back to Vienna in exchange for his soul, and the knight agreed, and in gratitude to the cockerel had an iron figure made in his honour. And then there's also one relating to Mozart, who was a renowned resident. Residents inevitably have its downsides, as there are bound to be myths and legends circulating, as the most common rumour is about the composer is a story of murder most foul, and a legend has it that the Italian composer and one of Mozart's most fierce rivals, Antonio Salieri, poisoned him in a plot to defeat his prolific arch nemesis. However, contrary to the story, records show that his death is most likely the result of a severe military fever, rather than at the hands of Salieri. Then there's the Kaiser Schmarren story, as deserts are important to the Viennese, as they kind of have backstories to accompany the desserts and all that. As there are a few tales about how Kaiser Schmarren, which is kind of like a combination of shredded pancakes and a sweet compote, came to be. As the two most important popular stories involve the Austrian Emperor Franz Joseph, and as allegedly due to the Emperor's wife Elizabeth insisting on keeping a trim figure, she demanded that the chef only prepare light desserts for her, and when presented to the newly invented Kaiser Charm, she rejected it on the grounds that it was too rich and gave it to her husband, who thought it was delicious and demanded more. And the other story sheds light on the dessert's chaotic aesthetic. When the Emperor was passing through the countryside and stopped by the farmer's house for something to eat, and overwhelmed by the presence of royalty in his house, the farmer messed up a pancake recipe and attempted to cover his failings and drown it in jam. But either way, it caught on. So it wasn't a bad idea, whether his wife didn't like the look of it or whether the farmer kind of just messed it and just gave it in. So either way, it's an incredibly lucky mistake. So yeah, I'll end it there, and I'll see you all very, very soon, considering we've got to go in about 2-3 hours to the party. So yeah, I'll come back with the news, and I'll be compensating tomorrow with news when I do the news tomorrow. So yeah, I'm going to say bye for now and say danke for watching. So yeah, au revoir.